It's time to get serious about Tiffany Stratton and her WWE future. And let me just tell you up front, if you watch this channel, you know I'm not really a hot take kind of guy. I like to sort of do my research, give you my thoughts on different segments and storylines and shows and all this other stuff. You can look at the videos series where we've done kind of breaking down all the little details inside of the Rock, Roman Reigns, Bloodline saga leading into WrestleMania 40. This one may be a little bit different, but it doesn't lack the tiny little details because the opinion I have regarding Tiffany Stratton is all about the details. And that opinion is that we are looking at a very special talent and someone who I think is clearly now going to be positioned as the future of WWE. Maybe not even just the women's division, as someone who can be a top star, perhaps to the level that a Becky Lynch got to, as we know several years ago within the company. And I'm going to give you the reasons why, again, as we look at the facts, do the research, and give you the little details that sort of stand out about Tiffany Stratton thus far. And I think there's something to remember here, okay? I mean, we are talking about someone who is 24 years old. She turns 25 in May. And something I want you to consider here, she has only had 7 matches on the WWE main roster this year. Okay, of course it's January to March. That's a few, but it's not a ton, right? Period. Since she's come up to the WWE main roster, she's had 7 matches. 2 of them, remember, one's the Elimination Chamber, one is the Royal Rumble match itself. So those aren't really just completely focused in on her. Although, as we said, she had a good showing in the Rumble. She also had a great showing in the Elimination Chamber. But to only have, let's say, a handful of singles matches on the WWE main roster, and you already have the fans reacting in a way that you do not see very often in professional wrestling, especially maybe in WWE, where you know they have been very good over the years of sort of manufacturing how they want you to react to a certain talent. There are the exceptions that have come along where, all of a sudden the fans just take to someone and, you ride it into the next wave, whether it's there's obviously many of examples we could use with Daniel Bryan, the Yes Movement, all that took off, with that whole storyline and everything. Whether it's the initial reaction to The Rock going all the way back, into the late 90s at Survivor Series, where people are, completely turning on The Rock at that point as Rocky Maivia. There are other people, again, great examples too along the way. The Becky Lynch example, where Becky all of a sudden just becomes a phenomenon after getting, her nose broken and kind of where the character went from there, and all of a sudden she's main eventing WrestleMania and the biggest star in the company. What you're seeing to this point with Tiffany Stratton, I think, is something that is completely unique when you start to actually look at it within the context of all of these other people who have gone on to be big stars, legends in the company, because you are seeing fans react to her already in a way that, again, you have to, I think, put it into the context if you don't see this very often. Her first NXT match, keep this in mind, December 28th, 2021. So we're talking about somebody who is not even 3 years into this thing, right? A little over 2 years. And that was against Fallon Henley. That was on an episode of NXT 2.0, of course, at the time, back in late December of 2021. And so you think about the trajectory of her career since then, right? How much did that Becky Lynch feud help her? Because people, there have been plenty of people who've asked the question, the interactions that you have between the main roster and NXT, and how it felt like there used to be that disconnect, right? Whether Vince was in charge of the main roster, Triple H in charge of NXT, and you had the disconnect where somebody would do what they did in NXT, they come up to the main roster, it's completely different, right? There have been plenty of examples of that too, where it's like, okay, Karrion Kross comes up, he gets beat in 3 minutes to Jeff Hardy. Just that's one example. There have been many others in terms of how Vince probably perceived certain people coming up from NXT to the main roster. But there was a disconnect with the fans, and you did not get the same presentation on NXT that you got on the WWE main roster. But now you think about how intertwining the two together with Becky Lynch and that feud that she had with Tiffany Stratton, and how that really played such a huge role just in elevating kind of the stock of Tiffany Stratton. And again, it also helped that, it really was a very good feud. You had good matches, and people came out of that thinking, okay, great on Becky, being in that position to go help another talent. But it really was, you're coming out of it thinking, all right, there's clearly that something, that whatever it is, the it factor, the star potential, it's there with Tiffany Stratton. And you've already seen her now, young in her career, do this with a Becky Lynch, who, again, was at the very top of WWE several years ago. Not just in the women's division, a top star in the company, if not the most popular star in the company, which is why she had a chance to main event WrestleMania. So if you look at it from that standpoint, right, you're talking about someone who had that visibility, both, with main roster fans a little more because of the feud with Becky Lynch. You're sending Becky there, you get more eyeballs on a Tiffany Stratton and everybody else in NXT. So since that point, what's happened? She's continued to sort of embrace the character that she's played all along. It's evolved throughout NXT, and now it's evolved onto the main roster. And I think something that's important here too, we always talk about like how you can grow your profile as a professional wrestling in this era. What matters more than anything? It's not just what you do on TV. It's what you do on social media and how you interact with fans and how you're able to get that character over on social media. And it's a tough balancing act, right? Because there's a level of, do you just be 100% real? Do you be just 100% your character? And how do you juggle those different things? Well, we know, like, she's done such a good job. If you check out all of her social media stuff, all that, like, again, whether it's the Tiffy time stuff, whether it's the other kind of intangibles, there is a connection there with fans. And that is another reason why, the reaction has been what it is. Look, I don't think there's a lot of people that would have necessarily expected for her to get the reaction that she got at the Elimination Chamber in Perth, because she's been presented as a heel. And like I said earlier, WWE is great at sort of manufacturing exactly what they want you to do and how they want you to react to a certain talent. But she is becoming the exception. I know people have pointed out, look, if you want us to start booing her, you got to take away some of these great moves that she's doing, right? Whether it's just some of the in-ring work, whether it's the back handspring into the elbow in the corner, like we saw that recently. We've seen that time and time again. Of course, the moonsault, all these things. Like, these are kind of moves that if you hit them and you make them look good, they're going to get you over. And that's what's happened. She's been able to pull this off. And I know people have talked about, maybe a couple of matches there early on, in a particular main roster run that they weren't exactly the most crisp, but I think that's to be expected. Again, remember, we're talking about someone who's 24. Her first match on WWE television was basically 2 years ago. And now there are people, calling for her to win a women's world title this year. And again, she's getting as strong reactions as a lot of different women on the card right now. And I think when you look at it from that standpoint, you've got to sort of look at this and say, hey, we cannot deny what we're seeing right now. And I think, that's where everything's going to continue to get better. As long as she keeps getting the experience, being put in these roles that she's in, and she's not, sometimes you get thrown into the water, right? And you've got to figure out, okay, how do I make this work? That transition has been seamless. And again, maybe that just goes back to having the feud she had with Becky Lynch, the experience she got in NXT, learning from Shawn Michaels, now that transition of working for Triple H. They're both on the same page. They both have an idea of what they want in terms of presenting her on WWE television. And it's just that connection has been, again, much better than it used to be with the main roster in NXT. And I'm sure that's played a role as well, as you do get some of those fans that are invested in the characters they've already seen built up on NXT versus just a completely different presentation like it was for a while there. And so I just think we have to keep going back to the question here, like I said, and why I think we have to take this seriously is the reaction. It is all about how people are reacting to her. And, again, I went through kind of that list earlier where how many wrestlers have had this kind of strong reaction from the fans this quickly. I mean, the people you're going to list off on that list, that we mentioned some of them earlier, in terms of like how fan reaction just took off for certain wrestlers. But if you think about just the time aspect and how quickly people rose to kind of the ranks of being, again, a fan favorite even as a heel, but also just kind of everyone sort of seeing what's there with a certain talent. And you have fans having this strong of a reaction, like I said, so early in someone's career. I mean, remember the numbers: 5 singles matches, 7 matches total, 2 of those multi-people matches. But it's not that long, and the ones that are on that list are probably legendary type figures. And sure, is it early to say Tiffany Stratton is going to be a surefire 100% WWE Hall of Fame? She's going to do this, she's going to do that. Maybe. I mean, again, she's very early into her main roster run. But I'm telling you that I think this is a little bit different because we've not seen this every single time when you bring someone up. You spot the ones that are different. They're more unique, and I think we're seeing it. We're watching a special talent. And when you think about the momentum that WWE has as a whole, the ratings are going up. You're getting kind of that WrestleMania 40 push to where you've got more eyeballs on the product now with The Rock here for however long that is, with the whole Bloodline story, the Cody Rhodes story. You know, again, there's other things too, right? It's CM Punk's back. Drew McIntyre's doing the best work of his career. There's so many other things. Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch, that's a huge matchup. And so all these things, you're getting more eyes on the product. And I think you're only going to keep getting more eyeballs now on Tiffany Stratton, who has the it factor, obviously has the look, has the in-ring ability, has all those things that WWE has coveted in their top stars over the years. And just for now, I think it's okay to sit back and maybe not get too hot take-ish on this, but I think it's okay to say that we are watching someone who, quite frankly, may be the future, not just of the women's division, like I said, but really a top star in the entire company because she seems to have everything you need. She seems to be the total package. Her skills will continue to get better as they keep putting her on TV week after week after week in all of these kind of high-profile matches and such. And so it will all start probably, with their first big high-profile match at WrestleMania 40. And then where they go from there, like I said, it's time to get serious about the future of Tiffany Stratton. She has all the things you need to be a special, special talent. And I think you're seeing from the fan reaction that everyone's starting to realize it. So let me know what you think about Tiffany Stratton here moving forward and her potential in WWE as one of the top stars of the future. Again, I know this is something people have talked about, but I just wanted to kind of look at some of the numbers, talking about how many matches she's had, just kind of the timeline of how quickly she's been able to pull this off, the difference in the fan reaction, all of this. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think. So let me think about Tiffany Stratton here in WWE and her star power moving forward. And check out everything else on the channel. Lots of stuff here, new channel. Just enjoy talking wrestling with you guys. So hit that subscribe button and a lot more fun stuff to come here on the road to WrestleMania 40.